So now I'll begin. Um, I first want to thank Dhara so much because as the first speaker, I had nerves, and with all of that movement, the nerves are gone. So I feel amazing. And yeah, and I also want to thank Mr. Pandit for being the anchor and the backbone of this event. What an amazing organizer. My name is Kalika Sharma. I am a women's circle facilitator and transformational coach. And this is the name of the topic is Women's Circles as a Transformational Container Guiding Women Leaders. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about who I am, what is my journey been like, how did I come upon doing this kind of work, and my passion about women's leadership. So this is a little bit about my story, my background. I am a corporate child, so to speak. 20 years in the corporate world, about 10 years in UX consulting. I have a background in sociology and design. That is, like it's more of a social activist kind of background. Qualitative researcher. I used to work in human-computer interaction at one point. And I'm a people's person, so I loved it. I was traveling, meeting people, and doing research, and it was a really nice time in the corporate world. However, I had a turning point when I felt the lack of gender diversity at the higher levels of management, which I don't know if anyone here has been in corporate, but it does happen. You start noticing that at certain levels, you don't see that many women, you see more men. And I used to complain about it. I used to, be like, okay, so why is it that way? And why is it so, like, toxic, this culture and all of that? But because I was in a design field, right, I had to start thinking of a solution. I was too much in the problem myself, right? So I put on my solution hat, and luckily I had a very, very supportive woman boss back then, and so we used to brainstorm around this a lot. Now I just want to share a statistic here about growth of women's leadership in the corporate world. It's not in general, but these are two comparative, studies. The first one on the left is from 2010, and you can see, I mean, even whether you can read it or not, it says about 15% of top-level executives in corporate were women. And on the right side is a research done by by Catalyst. In 2021, the global number of women in senior management was 31%, right? So this is I find this very significant because, just imagine centuries of a history of not that much representation of women in leadership. And then suddenly from 2010 to 2020, there's a doubling. There's a doubling, like from 15 to 30%. So I knew that there's something going on. There's some exponential growth of women leadership. And I find it very interesting that this event is also the 10th, like it's a decade of this particular, women's leadership event. So there's something that's happened in the last 10 years that's very, very significant. And, everyone sitting in this room here, I mean, the women here, we are part of that movement, So since the growth in women's leadership, and this is seriously only the corporate context, it's not, I don't know about other contexts that much, but I started to question a lot of things. Like, women are biologically different from men, of course, but what about intellectually? My gut feeling is that we weren't. I felt that maybe it's the same, Then I was also looking at a very long timeline. If you think about it, like, on the very, very long, like centuries of the history of women, leadership we had a very small percentage of women who were in that role. And then, as I was telling you, this 10 years is a very small speck of time, relatively. Then other questions like, how has the internet impacted women and how we can connect with each other? Like, this is all what I think that this last decade has allowed these things to happen. And how has, being disconnected from each other as women left us in hiding for a very long time. And if we are not disconnected, what can we learn from each other to level out, for the future? So back in 2016, I began preparation for my role today as a Women's Circle facilitator. And the first thing I did is I joined women's circles myself. I started getting support from women because I felt that that's the only way, that there's no other way of doing this. It has to be that women empower women through other women, and I facilitated circles on weekends while working in my corporate job. I really couldn't afford to leave the corporate job back then. And I also trained with this organization called Sistership Circle. They are based in the US. And I trained with them for 3 years till I had done a mastery of circles. So I really felt like I needed to prepare before I, just start doing a business around it or doing some, seriously working around it. I myself underwent several healing journeys because, in the corporate world, like there's a lot of unlearning, I think, that sadly we must do about that kind of culture. And so as I was healing my own self, like I was healing a mother wound back then, I was healing, my body was transformed, like I've lost a lot of weight since then. And as I was healing, my body was responding to that healing also, right? And finally, in 2020, the company that I founded, which is Heart of Twilight, was born. So it's very recent, it's just, 2 years. What is a women's circle? So as I was saying, I believe that women and men are intellectually the same. The only reason why there isn't that much representation for women in leadership is because we don't believe it. We don't really believe it. Not everyone believes that they should be sitting at the table, in the boardrooms and all of that, right? So a women's circle is a transformational container to take limiting beliefs to unlimited potential. I mean, that's the short way of describing it. I want to also point out privilege. I think somebody used that word today. It's really important to note, like even all of us in this room, okay, the fact that we are here, we have access, we are exposed, we are educated, we are privileged women, and anyway, the fact is that the percentage of women leaders is still relatively small. And then, again, it's been a very short speck of time, as I was saying. It's just been a decade. So we have to, like, I am very conscious of the fact that I am privileged to even do this work, And so I feel like I take this with me every day in the work that I do. Know your privilege, and then support other women who don't know theirs yet, right? So, and I like this quote that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. If you go outside this room, you go to some households in this city, like this is one of the most progressive cities of India, Mumbai, you will find that this privilege does not exist in many, many households. You go outside Mumbai, even less. You go to, rural parts, it's different. If you go outside this country, I mean, anyway, so the point is that I recognize that. I recognize that if you have privilege, then you must share. You must share what you have. Now, when I started these women's circles, there's a lot of interesting, stereotypes and labels around women gathering in a circle. This is the first reactions that I got from people when I kind of went out there, right? So we do light candles, and it's like we create sacred space in the circle. So it's like, oh, is this something religious? Is this a cult? And it's not. Actually, it's not exclusive. It's very inclusive. It's exactly the opposite of that, right? Another stereotype. It's just a pretty group of women like coming together, and it does look pretty, when women come together. But that's not the point. The point is that we're doing transformational work. Another one, it's a charity or a non-profit. Again, when I say I'm doing women's circle, I'm doing a business, like I'm actually earning a revenue from it. And but there is a stereotype about, oh, if it's a women gathering, oh, that's like very sad, maybe it's a non-profit. So I get that also. It's a stitch and bitch. This is another one, like, oh, what else can a group of women do together, gossip? So, but it's really important, or it's a kitty party. Has anyone heard of this word, kitty party? Yeah, it's actually, yeah, it's from a previous generation. I think some of us have inherited these, and I think the next generation of women, we have to kind of own the fact that even though these are stereotypes and labels, we have to sort of overcome this, and at least I face it because this is what I do. I facilitate women's circles, and I have to constantly kind of battle with these kind of labels and associations about why women gather together in the first place. So, I mean, I really feel like I wanted to move to women gather for intentional reasons, for purpose-related work, for doing some deep learning and, transformational work together. That's the way it should be. This is another, like, quite a huge part of resistance that, like, I talk to hundreds of women, okay? Like, on a daily basis, maybe 5, 6 women. And another reason why women feel afraid to take support of other women in circle is because they feel they are the only one. Even I have felt that I am the only one, no one will understand me. So I'm the only one who's divorced, no one will, there's so much shame around that, so no one will understand me. I'm the only one who's a single mother. And every single mother thinks that they're having their only lonely experience, but everyone in the room is going through the same thing, Or I talked to a woman who isn't married yet, in her 30s, and she feels so much shame around that, like, I'm a black sheep because I haven't yet got married, or I'm the only one who didn't succeed and everyone else succeeded. Then someone who's married has shame because they are married, but now they don't have a child. So, like, at every stage of our womanhood, society has something to tell us or the other, that, like, why we fit in, why we don't fit in. And because of that, that divides women from each other, I feel, instead of, and as somebody who sees it, I'm seeing it from the outside when I speak to women, and I realize that it's actually what unites us actually, because everyone thinks they're having this experience absolutely alone, and we don't need to. All right, so this is the name of the program that I offer. It's called Feminine Sovereignty. I'm going to share a little bit about that program with you now. It's the circle, Women's Circle is extremely simple technology. Okay, all that happens in it, I'm just telling you what happens, is that you come in, you share, and it's basically a container where there's no judgment, no coaching, simple witnessing of what is going on, and safety. That's it. And because it is so simple, it requires a skilled facilitator, because nothing like more complicated than this is even happening. And it's amazing that because it's so simple also, it's very miraculous, the kind of things that can happen in the circle. Now, how the program begins is with commitment, setting boundaries, and becoming self-reliant. So I work with women who either they want to step into leadership and they have some, reluctance around, say, starting a new business or becoming more visible or scaling, going to a new level in their journey. And I find that the first thing is like around, committing to doing it. Like, I really believe the difference between a good leader and a great leader is like showing up. Those who show up more and they commit, they become great, basically. And setting boundaries. So setting boundaries is because, like, a lot of times from the inside, you can't see where your time is going, So once you have boundaries around where your time is going, then you can be like, okay, yeah, I can commit to what I'm doing. And becoming self-reliant. So these are the first parts of the Feminine Sovereignty program that I offer. And purpose work. So yeah, I think this is a really, really huge one. When the women I work with, sometimes, like, for example, the first point that I've mentioned here, right? You cannot find your purpose in a family member. You can't find your purpose, like, then you'll have emptiness syndrome and your kids are gone and then you don't have purpose anymore, really, So purpose has to be more than just a person in your life. It has to be something that lights you up, that you're passionate about, that you want to do, right? And you can find it, It is not necessarily found in a job or like a lot of people, women who come to me, they are in a job and they are extremely unhappy in that job. Their heart is not in it, right? They're not necessarily, and I also believe that purpose is not necessarily connected to making a large amount of money. It isn't, because you can find your purpose first and the money can come later. It's very possible that happens that way, and I've seen that happen with many, many women. So yeah, it's basically, I believe, purpose is, it's very important to dream, to have vision, to face your fears, and be honest with yourself. And yeah, so there's a lot of these kind of exercises that we do in the circle so that we get clarity on purpose. The next part is original wounding. So this is again work with, there are many coaches who help with these limiting belief work. And my method is to really, like, this is very deep work, original wounding, which is our family of origin, and gives us our patterns and our behavior for the rest of our life, right? So a lot of the, it's basically whatever happened in your past is happening right now in your present as well. Until you let go of that, it's going to keep repeating and it's going to keep happening. So there is a process that I use, which is called inner child healing. And it's a self-healing method. Whenever things come up that, you know, you feel, especially in leadership, you've come to a higher level, things have become chaotic, you feel you can't cope, you can self-heal by using this method called inner child healing. It's a very beautiful method of, you know, and it's very long-term, it's very sustainable, and it, I believe it, you know, I've seen it working in various situations. The next is body. And Dhara, I again want to thank you for what you did with us in the body today. But yeah, this program, the Feminine Sovereignty program, like, it's a holistic program. So I really feel like leaders we have to take our body along with us, right? The body is the thing that stays with us till the day we die. You know, everything else will leave you, but your body will be with you till the last day of your life. So don't forget your body, you know, like, don't be in your mind all the time. And also, so apart from like movement, meditation, breath work, dance, we also release emotion through the body, you know. You can release, of course, you can release grief through the body, you can release anger through the body. And that's very powerful, because a lot of times when we're stuck in our lives, 2 minutes left? Okay, I'll wrap. A lot of times we're stuck in our lives, we can actually channel emotion through the body and release it. I'll quickly, I don't have that much time left, so I'm going to just quickly run through the remaining slides. Masculine and feminine energy, this is, you know, I'll give you a quick example. A woman comes into the program who is very much in her feminine. She might have a business, but lacking structure, lacking goals, you know, lacking direction. So those things are more masculine. As an energy, you need to have both. Every woman and man must have both these energies. And the last part of the program is visibility. So once you have all this alignment from body, purpose, self-healing, etc., then you become visible in the way that is in an aligned version of you. It becomes easy to become visible, basically. If you have been, say, reluctant to show up on social media, it just becomes much easier to do that. So yeah, these are the results of being in circle. You have clarity of purpose, you have self-healing, body confidence, masculine and feminine energy awareness, and aligned visibility. And yeah, since I have probably 1 minute left, I just want to end with, the circle reminds us that we are not alone in whatever stage of womanhood we might be, right? So, and as I was saying, you know, every single woman goes through problems and things that she's the only one who's facing that right now. And I'll end with this quote by Edward Markham. They drew me a circle and shut me out, heretic rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took them in. Thank you. This is what a circle looks like. Yeah.